What's up YouTube, Capital G here talking about Trickstar Reincarnation in this video and why I think this card needs to stay far away from the next TCG ban list in any capacity whenever it is that we end up getting that list. So let me just say, for starters, I don't think that it's too early to start talking about our next TCG ban list. In fact, I still think that it is a possibility that we could get an emergency ban list. I think Konami could have easily looked at the results of YCS Houston and said, wait a minute guys, before we do something massive, let's just hold back for maybe a week. We've got another YCS coming up in just a week. We can look at YCS London, we can monitor this tournament, we can look at the top 32 breakdown and see, is this deck so dominant that we need to hit it? I think that that's a very big possibility, and the reason that I'm talking about Trickstar Reincarnation is I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility for Konami to do other things on this emergency ban list that could still happen. Usually when we see emergency ban lists in Yu-Gi-Oh, they're generally directed towards one deck, but I don't know if Konami is just going to want to say, you know what guys, let's just go ahead and reset the format to where it was before Circuit Break came out, before Double Helix was in the game. Let's just go ahead and put the game right there, because clearly there was no complaining in the format. That wouldn't necessarily be true. We would still have things like Masterpiece and other cards in the meta that a lot of people have complained about for months and months. I think that they could even kind of wave that ban wand or swing the ban hammer and hit a couple of decks. Maybe we could see things like Joker go back to 1. We could see Masterpiece get hit. We could see other things cleaned up like Grinder Golem and Firewall Dragon, things that people are complaining about, as well as obviously some obligatory spiral hits. But the reason that I'm talking about this is I don't want to see Trickstar Reincarnation end up being collateral damage, especially considering that it's done pretty okay over the last couple of weeks. I believe that as we speak at YCS London, it is the second most popular deck at the event, and I believe that after like round 8, it was doing better than the Pendulum Magician deck. Also, it had a couple of tops at YCS Houston, but definitely, or excuse me, YCS Dallas, but definitely nothing on the level of, you know, this deck is a problem. But I just don't want it to kind of get mixed up, because I think it's a possibility, especially considering Trickstar Reincarnation did get limited in the OCG, and Trickstar Reincarnation it's a very interesting situation, because this is a card that, yes, you can go back to my video when Trickstar Reincarnation was first revealed, and I say that this card is broken. It should have been a hard once per turn. It is searchable, and those things are probably true. In fact, I've basically made my peace with the fact that Trickstar Reincarnation, in my opinion, is still a broken card. But I think it's a situation much like Judgment Dragon. I think it's a situation where this is the heart and soul of the deck, and if you take away this card, even if you don't completely ban it, if you put it at limited status, Trickstars really won't have a win condition at that point. You look at them in the OCG, and even before Spiral came into the game, the second Trickstar where, you know, the second they lost those copies of Reincarnation, the deck fell off a fucking planet, and it was just like, why is this even a deck again? And I know there are going to be some people out there that are probably going to be like, good, get Trickstars out of the game. Nobody likes playing burn decks. But you guys know, and I know, Trickstar is not a conventional burn deck. It's not a deck like Chain Burn or any of those old wave motion cannon burns that basically just wants to ignore everything the opponent's doing. Trickstar does actually interact with the opponent. It is a deck that will use its battle phase, that'll go into some link monsters, especially with the scapegoat plays and like that. It's a little weird. I say that it's much similar to our old deck from GX, Baboon Burn. Trickstar isn't nearly as degenerate as all the other burn decks that basically just want to stall and just, you know, rack up the burn damage. Trickstar actually has to get into the trenches, and it has to kind of get its hand dirty, and I think it would really be a shame if this deck got eliminated from the game. In fact, I often compare Trickstars to some of the other female archetypes, or excuse me, some of the other archetypes that the female characters on the show play. In fact, I look at Trickstars and I'm like, man, you're what Melodious wish they were. You know, Melodious and Trickstars are very comparable, not in the sense that the archetypes are similar or anything like that, but I mean, like, if you look at Arc V and you look at Yuzu's role in Arc V, it's basically the same as Aui's role in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. The only difference is, I mean, let's be real, Melodious were garbage and they sucked dick, and they came out of the first booster set in the Arc V era Duelist Alliance, but they never did anything, and it's basically been a joke of an archetype ever since it came out. Trickstars, on the other hand, have been, you know, a pretty solid deck, a deck that you could go and top a regional with, a deck that you can go and maybe make top 16 at a YCS with, but it's never a deck that has ever felt like the best deck in the game. It's never a deck that has ever felt ridiculously overpowered, so it's always like this really just nice kind of option for competitive players, much like something like Sertellar Knights. In fact, that's like a perfect comparison. Trickstars are very much on like the power level of a Sertellar Knight type deck. Trickstars, if Reincarnation doesn't get hit, is probably going to be a deck that, at least for the first half of Reigns, is going to be somewhat viable. Maybe after the first half, it'll end up getting power creeped by something else because, you know, maybe the game will be a little too fast or some other deck will be crazy and it'll just make Trickstars kind of unplayable. But it's like, why eliminate that out of the game? Why eliminate a deck that probably has a 1.5-year shelf life, maybe even 2-year shelf life, just because its power card is broken? Is Trickstar Reincarnation broken? Yes, but every deck needs at least a couple of broken cards. If this is a card that isn't doing so much in the game where it's like, man, this shit is clearly unhealthy. If you look at, you know, cards like Masterpiece being a towers that works on both turns, being damn near unkillable sometimes, or a Grinder Golem where the damn thing can be kind of a 1-card FTK, or something like a quick fix where you see people summon it 7 times in a turn, and amass boards where you can, you know, extra link and have 5 link monsters on the field, and it's just like, well, this is impossible to crack. Trickstar Reincarnation isn't doing anything on that level, and I just feel like it shouldn't get caught up in maybe the cleanup that Konami's going to do with the format, whether we get an emergency ban list or whether we don't get one, whether, you know, Konami says, all right guys, we're gonna push this ban list back until, you know, maybe January, mid-January, right before we're ready to start promoting Extreme Force, but we're gonna hit some other stuff in the meta. But, you know, I don't want them to just be like, yeah, we got to get rid of Trickstar Reincarnation, because that's just gonna suck, because the deck just becomes unplayable at that point, and we all know it. Look at the OCG. Even if spirals get taken out of the meta, Trickstars aren't going to roll up. They're not going to become a strong deck anymore. I know there was like one guy who made like, I don't know, 18th place at a, you know, 17-person locals or some shit like that 2 weeks ago with Trickstar, but don't use that as some type of sign that Trickstars are still viable in the OCG. They aren't. If this card goes to 1, the deck is basically dead. At 2, maybe Trickstars would still be playable, not nearly what they are, you know, now, but I don't know. I feel like it's a card that shouldn't even be under consideration, and I just kind of wanted to talk about that. So you guys let me know what you think. I think that this is kind of a goer / heavy storm situation where it's an evil card, but it serves a good purpose. So, you know, you just kind of have to leave it alone. Anyways, whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on those notifications for daily videos. And if you were watching the live stream last night, you know why I call myself Goku Black. It's coming, boys. It's coming.